In today's video, we're going to explore Windows 365 for Agents. What is Windows 365 for Agents? Windows 365 for Agents is the ability to run Agentic AI inside your Windows 365 desktops. Those Windows 365 desktops are controlled via Intune, okay? And that means that data that you're running those agents on is secure. So the problem historically with Agentic AI is that you can run it on pretty much everything. And that potentially means that you don't either have access to your internal environment, or if you can access it, you've got corporate data leakage. Okay. So obviously you want those AI workloads to run in something which you can see, something which you can control, and something which you can report on. And that's what the Windows 365 agent service brings. Okay. I can run those AI workloads on something which is fully secure with all my compliance policies applied to it. So today's video, we're going to look and see how we set up Windows 365 for agents, and then we're going to deploy an agent, and then we're going to go show you how it works. So first, let's take a step back and figure out why this is so important. So historically, if I wanted to run an agent, I'd have to either run it in a controlled browser, or I'd have to run it on a device which is potentially unsecure. Okay. So what can a agent do? Well, an agent can do pretty much anything a human can do. Okay. But the problem is, historically, you needed access to what we call APIs, right? So an API endpoint is how the AI service itself talks to the actual device. Okay. So if I want to retrieve a file, if I want to open something, if I want to write something into a spreadsheet, if I want to do it via AI, I have to do it via API endpoint. Okay. Windows 365 for agents changes the game completely. Why is that? So essentially, it means that my applications, my legacy applications, my SAPs, your HR system, which somebody wrote 20 years ago, we can now basically control that via Agentic AI without needing an API endpoint. Because essentially what's happening is the Windows 365 agent service is provisioning the desktop, and then the Copilot is able to actually read what's on the screen and then interpret what to do. So instead of me having to show where the menu is on the screen in a particular place, we can now say, go to this location, and then it can read the screen and then it will go to that location without actually knowing anything about the code, with no API endpoints, whatever. So this means it'll pretty much work with anything you tell it to work with. Doesn't matter if the application is 40 years old, it can still read that screen. So this is really, really powerful. But the question is, how does it compare to a human being? Is it slower? Is it faster? And how much does it cost? In today's video, we're going to answer all those questions. Okay. First of all, let's get into it and show you how to deploy this. All right. So first place that we need to go is actually Copilot Studio. Okay. So if we head over into the Copilot Studio menu here, so what we can basically see, we can see here we've got a computer using agent, right? So historically we just use a normal agent for interaction, but now we can actually use what we can call a computer user agent, which is what we're going to leverage the Windows 365 desktop for. So I'm going to select this one. So I'm going to call this England game, for example. Okay. So click create. That's going to go ahead and let me start create the agent. So give that a minute. Navigate to BBC UK Sport and then find out the score of the England versus France football game, which was last night. Right. I'm just going to go and select this here. And obviously here you can put anything you want, right? So this could be go to this website, log in using these credentials, open Microsoft Excel, go to this formula, for example. There's unlimited stuff that you can do. Obviously, we have down some invoice processing, data entry, data extraction, which are the kind of the most common things that you use this for. But yeah, we can go down here. I'll just go navigate to here and find out score. Now, the advantage that you get in with this is the fact that it can work with your local applications inside your environment, right? So if you've got any installed applications on your desktop that you want to use on your Windows 365 image, it can leverage those, right? It doesn't have to have an API endpoint. It can literally do anything that you want it to. So we can just select that here. So we're going to click on add and configure. Okay, so that's essentially our agent created, right? And we can tell it to use a computer using agent, instructions, navigate to here. inputs that we don't have any inputs to add it, and we can output it as JSON as well. So if you want to forward that to another system for processing, for example, you'd use JSON. Here we're just going to use text as an example. Okay, now here's where the biggest difference is, because here we've got machine. Now, historically, again, you could only use like hosted browser. So hosted browser is something which is hosted by Microsoft itself. Now, obviously, because that is a hosted browser, that's not going to have access to your corporate environment, right? And nothing's going to be logged against it, right? So that's the unsecure method. The new method which we're going to be using today is to your own cloud PC pool, right? So obviously, that's going to sit inside your own environment. Okay, so it's going to be connected to your Intune environment. Everything's going to be logged. So it's going to be a lot more secure. So we can basically go into here and we can add a new PC pool. So you can see how I was doing some testing previously. That's why I've already got one. We click on add new, and then basically in here we can add in names of the VMs that we wanted to. Okay, and then we're going to select machine name, AI test, and then enable run only access. Yep. Then click create. That's going to go away, and that will create a cloud PC pool. So that's the process that you use to create it, but I've already got one created. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just go back a step, and I'll just use my existing one. So I'm going to go to Cloud PC pool, and then I'm just going to select this Cloud PC pool to use it here as well. Okay, so we've got those. So that's my agent. I'm going to navigate to this, and then going to find out the scores of the football game, right? So that's all I've asked it to do. As I said, those instructions can literally just be anything you wanted it to be, right? So I need to save that, okay? And then once you've saved it, we can go and test it. So a test run basically just makes sure that it works end to end before you actually go ahead and publish this workload. Okay, so I'm going to test it directly. So I'm going to click test. Okay, so it's getting the computer ready to run that workload. All right, so as you can see here, that's gone away. It's basically opening up the browser. It's interacting with the page. It's accessing the articles, and it's navigating the scores and fixtures. Okay. All right, there we go. So it took a bit of getting there, took a bit of searching, but it found the information it needs eventually. So it said, hey, it's now got the final score of England versus France. Okay, and so we've now got that information back. All right, so now that we've got that, we can just click the close button, and now we have that finished. Okay, so that's pretty much it. The agent has been provisioned, so you are now able to use the agent in other places. You can publish it to Teams, for example, and then kick off that workload. So we'll go ahead and show you how to do that now. All right, so now we have to publish the agent to make it available. So we don't have access to this publish button, so we need to. So let's edit these details. So describe your agent. This agent will retrieve the England. This okay, GPT. So we can change the different chat models. So let's do it. GPT Auto. Okay. Describe what you want the agent to do in its tone and its rules. So agent will just retrieve the football score. Okay. And here you can add in like data files and resources. So we don't have anything to configure here, but if you had like any internal KP documents, any SharePoint sites, anything like that you wanted the agent to be able to speak about or know about, you would put that within here as well. So we can actually add in the public website, for example. So if I go to BBC Sport, for example, so let's do that now. Use.bbc. Let's just go into here and then add that in there as an example. So go to the link in there. So click add, and then add that to the agent as well. So at least it knows about that. AI tools. So I've already added worky, right? So that's already added within there as well. Triggers, set separate agents to activate when certain events happen, right? I can add a trigger in here so we can run it daily, for example. So maybe when a task is completed, or when a new email arrives or something, or when a new channel message is added or something like that. Let's just do something simple like a recurrence. So I can run this. If you're doing like BPO processing, for example, you can just set this to run daily to go and do stuff. So we'll add in well. So create a trigger to run concurrently. So that's going to be every 30 minutes, for example. Let's do it. Trigger interval every day. Okay. Right, trigger. That's going to go away and run that daily. I need to make sure I cancel that so I don't get charged lots of money. Okay. So let's go ahead and create that. Okay. All right. So now that we've added those settings, we are now actually able to publish our agent. Okay. I'm just going to select the publish there. Okay. Force news version. Yep. And then just select publish. Okay. So the agent is now published and available for my users. Okay. So now if we head over to agents, and we can see that there. So that's like published a second ago, and that agent is actually available to use. What we'll do now is we're going to test the agent. Okay. So we'll just head over into this screen here. So he's asking me, how can I help you? So I'm just going to ask it to please can score. Now, because I've already given it like the browser access, then it can basically search the source, right? Because the source I gave it was BBC Sport. So you can see there, that took 0.2 seconds, right? And that was pretty much instant. But that was only because I added that source, which is a public website. Now, obviously, if it's an internal website, you wouldn't be able to access that. Okay. This is where the computer user agents really comes into use. So I can now basically say that same thing, but I'm basically going to tell it to use a computer. So that was just a web search, right? That took 0.72 seconds. Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say, please use the those 365 agents. Okay. So what I'm telling it there to do is rather than just use the browser, to actually log onto the desktop and browse the desktop or browse the browser. Now, but you could use this for anything you wanted to, right? This could be used for legacy applications, SAP, timesheets, whatever you want it. So you can see here, it's basically saying it'll begin as soon as the computer is available, right? So it's using Windows 365 for desktop. So you can see there, we've now got the desktop, the Windows 365 desktop, which it's using. You can see here it's navigating. So we'll come back shortly, but you'll see the steps that it's going from executing to retrieve that information. Okay, so that's now finished. So as you can see, it took 105.34 seconds to retrieve that information. So difference is normal web search will take 0.72 seconds and it just retrieves information. So very quickly, very cheap. Computer user agent, as you can see here, we've got the screenshot. So think about that from a security perspective, right? And we can actually see everything that it's seeing. And you can see all the steps here, which is doing. So just to reiterate, this is done on a device which is inside your corporate environment, which is a secure endpoint, right? And you're getting all these activity logs to what you can see. And so it's taken snapshot by snapshot, exactly what it's doing. You can see there, like the actions, left click, the positions and stuff as well, which is quite cool. And then obviously it said it's taken 8 actions, 7 screenshots, average time per step, which is 0.08 seconds. This is the machine details, right? So you can see CPU full. So this is the cloud PC workstations, and these are the websites that it's used to get that information as well. And then we can also go in there and I can export the session logs as well if we wanted to. So this is the Windows 365 for agents in action. As I mentioned, this will work with anything, right? Any legacy application. So very cool. Very, very cool. All right, so let's go and see what's actually set up on the back end. So I'm in the Intune Studio, right? So we can go to manage Windows 365 cloud PCs. So go to provisioning. So in here, what we can see is we've got this provisioning policy here, right? So that was the provisioning policy that I created through the Copilot Studio, right? So you can see there, and that's the name that it's given it. And we go into here, we can see the device name. Right, so this is just a device which is now managed by your corporate environment. Right, you can see there, ownership is corporate, and it's down. It's a Copilot Studio device managed machine, the last check-in time, which was shortly ago, when we can see like remote assistance to it. So it's pretty much exactly the same thing as a normal Windows 365 device. So I can go in here, I can look at the performance metrics, I can look at the applications installed on it. You can do anything you will be able to via a normal device as well. So we've also got some group membership in there as well, which is a dynamic group. So if I click on that group there, you can see that it's a member of this. So this is how we allow it to do some security stuff in the background. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's just a normal device that's sitting in Windows 365. All right, now for the interesting bit. How much does it actually cost? Okay, so over to our screen here. So the basic costs that you're going to have with Windows 365 for agents are the runtime, right? So per hour is $0.40, so 40 cents. Okay, so that's how much you're going to pay per hour that job is running. So even if you've got like multiple tasks, you're still set on an hourly basis, right? So every hour that VM is running, that's the cost of that. But you also have your Copilot Studio costs. So you can either do these as you go, or you can do it as a capacity pack, essentially. Now, obviously, the way that it works per credits, right? So every time you do something, it uses up a credit. I think we worked out that the average for a job, for example, where I'm just searching a website and retrieving data, it's going to use like 12,500 credits. But we do need to track that. A lot of this is guesswork at the moment because people are still looking at the service. But I've got some estimated costs for the service that we've bought up, right? So for a single user with a capacity pack or as pay as you go, you're looking at around $200 a month, right, for the Windows 365 for agent service, which I don't know what your thoughts are, but personally, I thought that's pretty expensive, especially when you can compare that to a physical worker, right? The other thing to take into consideration, what I found was, for example, if you look at how long it took to retrieve like the football score. I did some other tests on another website, and it took between 2 and 4 minutes just to retrieve simple data, right? Whereas a physical task worker could probably get that same amount of data back within seconds. Obviously, if you do have access to API endpoints, that's also a lot quicker, cheaper as well. But I personally found this quite expensive. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely see the benefits of this. The fact that you don't have to go through the trial of finding a physical location to put those workers in. You don't have all that stuff around pensions and having to hire them and salaries and all that stuff that you have to work through, right? But if it comes down to pure costs, I think as it stands today, a physical human worker would probably work out cheaper. And let's look into that. Done some cost comparisons here. Now, to do the equivalent work, which is like 100 tasks, or sorry, 1,000 tasks, which is like between 8 and 16 hours of work. If you hired like a BPO outsourcer from the Philippines, it costs you between $14 and $42. If you hired someone from India, it would cost half that in some instances. Someone from the United Kingdom, it'd probably cost you between $125 and $300 a day. And someone from the US, like $142 to $333 a day. So you probably could say that within the UK and United States, the cost is going to be pretty similar. But then if you work out pensions and all that other stuff as well, then it actually may work out again more expensive to hire a physical worker. So there's that to it. So that's the basic Windows 365 agents usage. But then on top of that, we also have the Agent 365 service if you wanted to leverage that. So what is that? So the Agent 365 service is essentially a way of controlling the agents, right? It's the Azure governance level, so we can see what the agents are doing, control what they have access to, control what they don't have access to, etc. So that would be on top of those prices that we just discussed. That would be like an extra $7,500 a month. Right. Or alternatively, if you wanted the E7 license user, that would be like $49,500 a month. Or the way you could also think about it as well is like if you were if you're doing this in person, you would still need those licenses, right? You may not need the Agent 365 license. You may be able to get away with just an E3 or an E5 license, but they're still pretty expensive to work out the cost of those. So I've got mixed feelings about this. I can see how scalable it is. I can see the potential. I can see why you would want to use it, because it enables you to get a lot of stuff done, because we can just deploy multiple provision policies, and it doesn't matter how many tasks we throw at it. It's going to run 24/7, 365 days a year, right? And if we can scale it up and down based on demand and all that good stuff. But if it comes down to cost, and you're comparing the cost of this compared to like working BPO outsourcing in the Philippines or India, this to me looks way more expensive. So that's my honest opinion. All right, so that's it. That's the Windows 365 for agent service. My initial thoughts are it's pretty cool. It's pretty impressive. Obviously, if you are able to work via APIs, that's going to be a lot quicker and a lot cheaper to use. But this is not the use case for this, right? The use case for this is to support those legacy applications, or to work inside your corporate environment where you don't want to go over public API endpoints, for example, and you want to have complete control over what you can see, what you can do. This is what the Windows 365 agent service was built for. But as I just said in the cost summary, you're going to pay for that. It's not a cheap service to run by any means. Let's say if you're comparing it to Philippines or Indian workforce, way more expensive. If you're comparing it to, say, US and UK workforce, probably going to work out similar kind of cost, but then you don't have to go through the pain of finding somewhere for them to work, electricity costs, and all that stuff. So you have to work it out and see if it's viable for your environment or not. But as we know, and the cost of AI is pretty expensive at the moment. It will go down, I'm sure, over time. And when this becomes a lot cheaper, then I'd imagine it'll become a lot more popular service. But so far, I'm impressed. I can definitely see the use case for it. So yeah, looking forward to hear if any of you are there looking to use it. If so, let me know in the comments. And on that note, I'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye bye.